In this video, I'm going to show you something that most email marketing agencies would never reveal. A live, unfiltered audit of a $1.8 million Klaviyo account that's severely underperforming. This brand is leaving hundreds of thousands of dollars on the table every single month. And I'm about to show you exactly why. If you run a Shopify store, you're going to want to watch the entire video, because the same issues that I'm going to show you are likely costing you a ton of revenue right now. Over the past 5 years at Magicianly, we have worked with more than 50 e-commerce brands, and I've noticed the same critical mistakes happening over and over again. I'm going to break down this audit into the 4 pillars of email marketing success: email deliverability, list growth, email flows, and email campaigns. By the end of this video, you'll have an entire framework to audit your own Klaviyo account, so you can spot the exact same revenue leaks in your own store. So let's dive into it. So we're in the Klaviyo account and we're looking at the data from January 24 until February 23rd of 2025. So as you can see, during this period, this brand was doing 1.8 million of total revenue, and they collected 358K from email marketing. And that's where we already see like the first issue, that they're just attributing like 19% of their total store's revenue towards Klaviyo email marketing. And ideally you want to have this in like the 30 to 40% range. Like for our own clients, our average is 42%. And of course, the percentage is not like the end all be all goal. It's more so about the total growth year over year for your store. But it is a good indicator if a Klaviyo account is underperforming or overperforming or is just doing well. And in this case, it's already an indication that there are opportunities to like optimize the email revenue part of this business. So we do see that year over year, the business is growing, like 143% growth for their total revenue and a 149% increase compared to last year for their email marketing revenue. So that's a good sign. And it looks like their email marketing revenue is just increasing because their total stores revenue is increasing. So just simply due to the fact that there's more website traffic coming. And then of course, if you have some flows available, like just a simple welcome flow, then the email revenue will also increase. Then I always like to take a look in the split between campaign revenue and flow revenue. So in this case, we see there's a pretty even split, like 41% is coming from campaigns, 58% is coming from flows. So that's not a bad split at all. It kind of depends on the type of business, what's like the ideal split, as long if it's not like 80-20, because that could mean that the 20% side is like underperforming. So let's say flows would only generate 20% of the email marketing revenue. Then we clearly know, okay, so on the flow side, there's room for improvement. In this case, the split is pretty even, so that's a good sign. Then we see that this brand is just doing email, so they're not doing SMS. Of course, when it is possible to run SMS and it fits your target market, I always advise to also run SMS, because just with a simple flows, you can already collect like a ton of extra revenue on top of the email revenue. So again, if it's applicable for your target audience and it's possible within your niche, I would definitely encourage you to start using SMS. And I know for this brand, there is a specific reason why they're not doing SMS, because they're more so targeting a bit of an older audience. So in that case, I do get why they're not having SMS, although I would still advise them to at least try it out with some SMS flows. And then you can just skip out on the SMS campaigns at least. Then let's take a look at their top performing flows. Then we see that the majority of the revenue is coming from their welcome series. As you can see in here, like 131K. The welcome series, of course, is not like a retention flow. It's really the acquisition flow, because people see the sign-up form on their website, which we'll take a look at later. They sign up for the newsletter because they probably get a discount, and then they get the welcome email one, and then they buy. So this is more so an acquisition flow than a retention flow. There's also a debate in like email marketing space, like, okay, is this revenue really email marketing revenue? And of course, this is like a good discussion that you can make. In this case, we clearly see that most of the flow revenue is really coming from this welcome series flow. Next up, we see the post-purchase flow that's generating also a ton of revenue. The third flow is the abandoned cart flow, which actually is a abandoned checkout flow. So that's already an interesting thing that we see. We'll dive into this later once we get to the flows. So those are the top 3 flows. flows, welcome series, post-purchase, and the checkout abandonment flow. This is not that crazy. It is kind of interesting that the post-purchase flow is like the second performing flow. Usually we see that a little bit lower than we see like if they have a cart abandonment flow. This one is higher and the browse abandonment flow. But we can already tell based on this list that this client is not running a cart abandonment flow and a browse abandonment flow. But again, we'll dive into the flows a bit later. First, I always want to take a look at the email deliverability. That's the first pillar that I take a look at before diving into the emails, because you can have the most amazing flow system, the most beautiful email campaigns, but if your emails are landing in the spam box, then it just doesn't make sense. So the main pillar that I always take a look at is email deliverability. So what I first like to do, let's go to campaigns, and then I like to filter on send campaigns, and then I want to take a look at the open rates, see how things are going. Then I'm skipping the last emails because those open rates will go up. But what we can already see is that the open rates are like above 50%, like 54, 55, 55. So this is already like a good indication that the campaign open rates are like really, really solid. So we always want to make sure that the open rates for campaigns are like above 45%, ideally above the 50%. I know like the industry standard is like 30, 35%, but just to protect your email deliverability, we always like to have it above 50%. So that's always what I recommend. In this case, they're doing this perfectly. So that shows that there are probably not like big email deliverability issues already. So that's a good one. Another good sign to see if there's like a deliverability issue is checking the open rates of the welcome flow, because the welcome flow obviously will be sent to people who are new. So inbox providers like Gmail and Outlook, seeing emails coming in from a new brand to this person, and then they basically check what the sender reputation from this brand is. So if you see that the open rates on the welcome series flow is quite low, then this could be an indicator of an email deliverability issue. So let's go to the welcome series flow and let's take a look at the data of the last 90 days and see how open rate is. So on welcome email 1, it's 77% open rate. So that's of course really good. For your welcome series flow, at least like email 1, you want to have like a 60% or higher open rate. So 77% is like really good. You can take a look at the last 30 days to see if it like dropped massively or not. Last 30 days is 70%. So definitely a bit lower, but still 70% is really good. So that's always like an indication that there's no email deliverability issue. Then finally in the left menu, we can go down and go to deliverability to check their deliverability score. So their deliverability score is 70 right now, which is pretty okay. It went up by 9 compared to the previous 30 days. So here we can click on over time to see the historical scores. Then we see last year they've been at 53. Then they went up last summer to 75, and now they're around 65 over the last couple of months. A little drop in January, which pretty normal after Q4, but now they're going up again. So that's a good sign. Open rate average 53%, so that's great. Click rate 0.9%. The recommended click rate is 1.2%, which I don't totally agree on because there are a lot of factors that impact the click rate. 0.9% for me is not a bad click rate at all, to be honest. So I don't see this as an issue, while Klaviyo will mark this as fair. So this like reduces the deliverability score. But for me, it's like totally fine. Bounce rate is good. Should be less than 1%. That's on the good side. Still, I would like to see this a bit lower. So what I would do in this case is make a couple of segments to see if there are like a lot of bounce segments and stuff like that, to see if we can optimize that. Then we have the unsubscribe rate, 0.3%, a bit on the higher side, not dramatically. So it gets the score fair from Klaviyo. So ideally you want to have this a bit lower as well. And finally, the spam complaint rate. This is a really important metric to look at nowadays. So unsubscribe rate has become like less important because since last year, Google obviously made it easier for people to unsubscribe. There's now an unsubscribe button at the top of the email. So yeah, for people nowadays, it's really easy to unsubscribe compared to a few years ago where there could be like multiple steps and stuff like that to unsubscribe. So since it's now easier to unsubscribe, more people are unsubscribing. So that's why unsubscribe rate is less important. Spam complaint rate is very important to look at because that definitely impacts your sender reputation with Gmail and Outlook. So in this case, it's 0.03%. So that's a bit too high. So it means that that's definitely something to look into. It could be that the spam complaint rate is coming from certain flows or that it's coming from the campaign strategy. So that's definitely something to look into. But overall, to me, when I take a look at the open rate of the campaigns, the open rate of the welcome flow email 1, looking at this deliverability score, it looks like there are no major deliverability issues. Of course, we want to make sure that the bounce rate becomes a little bit lower, unsubscribe rate a little bit lower, and spam complaint rate a little bit lower, but those are not like major issues in this case. If we scroll down, then we can see the recent campaign message performance. Then we see there are not really a ton of spam complaints in here. Yeah, there's a spam complaint on this email and on this. So it looks like a couple of the emails that this brand is sending are causing like spam complaints. So that could indicate that the campaign strategy for this brand is not good. So this is honestly something that I talk about a lot on the channel, that you want to have an email campaign strategy that drives value, that drives entertainment to your audience. So you're actually likely to open your emails, that they like your emails, that they want to open your emails. And that massively helps with, first of all, driving revenue to your store, driving traffic to your store, and third of all, reducing your spam complaint rate because people are excited to open your emails. So in this case, with let's say the top 5 campaigns in here, that's 2 campaigns are already at like a pretty high spam complaint rate. This one is 0.02%, which is also on the higher side. It's already like an indication that the campaign strategy might not be like the best strategy right now. Then if we take a look at the recent flow performance, there we see like more issues even. So we see over here that there is a post-purchase flow that's getting a 0.07% spam complaint rate. Welcome series flow is getting spam complaints, which is pretty normal to be honest for a welcome series, because typically like the first emails, when people get it, then they're still happy. But after a couple of emails, if they first signed up and then they're not interested in the brand anymore and they're still getting the welcome series flow, then they're typically like complaining about it. So that's a pretty normal behavior. So for the welcome series flow, that's not like a bad thing at all, to be honest, especially if besides the welcome series flow, people are also getting like abandonment series and campaigns. So the total volume of emails is really high. And typically the welcome series flow is getting the complaints because those are the emails that you're sending daily. So pretty normal to see that the welcome series flow is getting spam complaints. Then we also see like high spam complaints on the customer win-back flow and another post-purchase flow. And finally, another welcome series flow in here, which is having a really high spam complaint rate. So it looks like the majority of the spam complaints is coming from the flows, to be honest. Also a bit of on the campaign side. Definitely some room for optimizations in that area. So one of the things that we like to do sometimes is, first of all, give people the opportunity to select what kind of emails they want to receive. So they can update the preferences with like categories of email campaigns that you're sending. So let's say someone only wants to receive like sales event details, they can select that and then they won't receive the rest of the emails. So that's a good solution. Second of all, you can make sure that when someone is in the welcome flow, they now add a product to the cart and they start receiving the cart abandonment flow, that they won't receive the rest of the welcome series flow. And something that you could do, that if someone is in one of your flows, or for example just a welcome series flow, that they can't receive email campaigns at the same time. And these are all things that you can do when you notice that there are on certain flows or certain campaigns there's like a high spam complaint rate. We don't do this by default, to be honest. We always want to take a look at the data first, because ideally we want them to receive all these emails. But once you do notice like these spam complaints, then those are like good things that you could do to reduce the spam complaint. Okay, so this is the first pillar, so email deliverability. Let's dive to the second pillar, which is list growth, because again, this is also really important, because you can have the nicest flows and the most beautiful email campaigns. If you don't have the people to send it to, then it's a waste of time. So you want to make sure that at the top of the funnel, you squeeze out the most of your website traffic and to get them inside your email. So what we're going to do, we're going to sign up forms, and then we're going to take a look at their current sign-up forms. So they have like 2 pop-up forms, like a desktop form and a mobile form. So let's first take a look at their desktop form. So this is the desktop form that they have been running. So what we see, if we first take a look at their targeting and behavior, so they have it on exit intent. They show it after 8 seconds or after 60% scroll distance. So these are all solid settings. So that's all good. After 5 days, the frequency, so that's good. So desktop only. Let's check the targeting. Don't show to existing Klaviyo profiles. They also have a few exclusions in terms of URLs. So that's good. So those settings looking all solid, to be honest. What I noticed is that they don't use the teaser function, which I always recommend. I know some brands are not a big fan of it because they have a lot going on their website, like chatbots and stuff like that. So they don't want to have like another like thing on their website. But I always encourage brands to do use like a teaser because it does work really, really well. Let's say someone has seen the form, wasn't interested straight away, but after browsing your website, they are interested, then they can like click on the teaser, and then the sign up form pops up again. So that's why I am a fan of it, to be honest. What we see in here, unlock 5% off your first order, enter your email here, claim a discount now, no thanks, I'll pay full price. So this is actually already like a pretty good setup, if you ask me. These are things that I highlighted like multiple times in my sign up form tutorial videos. So these are all good. So just a clear headline that shows clearly what the discount is, what people get in return for signing up. What I would say is you could make this a bit bigger so it pops out more, because right now it doesn't really pop out. Enter your email here, so that's good. So it's very clear on what people should do. Input field also has nice contrast to the background color, so it stands out. So it's easy to find for people. And they have a clear call to action button that stands out as well. Claim a discount now, a good call to action button text. And they have no thanks, I will pay full price. So that's basically all good. The only thing that I would do is removing this X in here, so people can only close the sign up form when they click next to it, or when they click no thanks, I will pay full price. So that's one thing that I would do. And then in the success page, your discount's on its way. Check your inbox for the discount code. If you can't find the email, check your spam. So yeah, also really solid. So nothing really bad with this sign up form actually. Now let's take a look at the data of the last 30 days. So how does this pop-up form converted? So we see a submit rate of 7.3%, which is excellent if you ask Klaviyo. I also think it's like pretty solid. Most e-commerce brands, they're like happy with like 2 to 4%. And I think you should never settle for that. I would go for at least 6%. Like for our own clients, we always want to get them anywhere from 6 to 12%. Then I think you're maximizing your website traffic way, way more, because let's say you first have a 2% sign-up rate. Now you have a 6% sign-up rate, 3xing the amount of people that are getting into your welcome flow. So at the beginning of this audit, you saw the amount of revenue that the welcome series flow was generating. Now, let's say that was with a 2% sign-up rate. Now we improve this to 6%. Now you can 3x the welcome series flow revenue simply by just optimizing the sign-up form. So those are all always like easy, quick wins that you can do just by improving your sign-up form over time. So 7.3%, which is good. 2.8K submits based on 38K viewed forms. So that looks pretty solid. Now let's take a look at their mobile form to see if it's like optimized for mobile view. Yeah. So this looks really good. So it looks like they made this text a bit bigger over here. They made the input field a bit bigger. The call to action button a bit bigger. So I think this person has taken a look at my videos on how to make a good sign-up form, because this looks all good. The only thing, again, same as with the desktop form, is that I would remove this X. And also they don't use a teaser on mobile, so that's definitely something that I would advise. Success page also looks good, so that looks pretty solid. Now let's take a look at the results of the last 30 days of this mobile form. So an 8.4% submit rate. So again, really good. They're good at a good level. So then you can already see, like, if you implement a good sign-up form, what are like the submit rates that you can get. So 12K submits based on 137K viewed forms. So yeah, those are like good submit rates. I definitely think that the submit rates can be even higher for this brand, since they offer like a 5% off discount, which in general, unless your AOV is like really high, is not that interesting for people. So I think for this brand, if we would use a mystery discount angle, that the results would be even better. So that's definitely something that I would recommend. Like the offer is like the biggest differentiator for your submit rate. Of course, there are like little tips and tricks that I always show you and recommend you in my sign-up form tutorial videos to like boost your submit rate, but those aren't gonna make a difference from 2% to 12%. The biggest difference is always like the offer that you have. So in this case, I think if we would split test 5% off versus a mystery discount angle, the mystery discount angle would work way, way better. And of course, it could mean that the conversion on the welcome series flow is a bit less, because let's say you get a sign-up form with 5% off, then you know, okay, this is 5% off. If you now receive a sign-up form with the mystery discount angle, and then you get the welcome email with 5% off, the response could be like, oh, it's just 5% off, I'm not gonna buy from this brand, you know? So then naturally, by default, the conversion rate of the welcome series flow would be a little bit lower. So that's one of the downsides, but at least you have them on your email list so you can nurture them over time with your welcome series flow, with your email campaigns and stuff like that. So I think the pros are like bigger than the cons. So yeah, that's list growth. So that seems pretty solid in terms of the pop-up forms. Now let's dive into the email flows. We've already taken a look at it a little bit, but let's dive a little bit into it a bit more. So we're now at the flows page of this account and ordered it based on the amount of revenue. So top performer is the welcome series flow. And if we dive into this flow, let's see what we see in here. So first of all, if you take a look at the profile filters, so place order 0 times in starting this flow and checkout started 0 times in starting this flow. So that's a good one. So when someone is in the checkout abandonment flow, this person won't receive the rest of the welcome series flow. And of course, if someone has done a purchase, they won't receive the rest of the flow either. So those are like good profile filters to set up. Then they have welcome email 1, they wait 2 days, then they do a resend of welcome email 1, then they wait 2 days, and then they send email 2, wait 2 days, email 3, wait 2 days, email 4. So it's a 4-part sequence that is a bit on the low side. So typically we like to work with like at least 6 to 7 emails for the welcome series flow as a base. Of course, for every brand, the tactic is a bit different, the strategy, but in general, we see that we can squeeze out more revenue with like longer welcome series flows. And one of the things that we like to do is after a while, once we notice that certain campaigns are working really, really well, we add those evergreen campaigns to the welcome series flow as well, just simply because we know that this campaign has worked very well. And then we can add them to the welcome flow because we know it converts. So why not adding it to the welcome series flow? So that's like a quick tip that I would definitely recommend. So for this brand, yeah, 4 emails. So I would definitely expand on that. If we take a look at the analytics, we see that the last email is still generating a 0.4% placed order rate and a 40% open rate. So that's like an indicator to me that there's definitely room for improvement to add more emails, because let's say the open rate on this last email was like 20%, 25, 30%, and the placed order rate was like 0. Okay, then we know there's probably not really interest anymore in this brand. So then it doesn't really make sense to add more emails. In this case, if it's still generating revenue, if the open rates are still good, then you can absolutely add another 1 or 2 emails, at least to test out if it generates even more revenue for this brand. So this is the biggest revenue driver. Second one is the post-purchase flow. So if you first take a look at the profile filters, we see there are no profile filters, just a trigger filter that the person should be from the US. No profile filter. So this is already like a quick tip. You should always add a profile filter that says that if someone has canceled the order, that they won't receive this flow. Because let's say someone has done a purchase, but for some reason they canceled it. Now they will still receive this flow, which is of course something you don't want. Second of all, you should always add a profile filter that says if someone has done another purchase after this original purchase, they won't receive the rest of the flow either, because then they should re-enter the same flow, but then as a returning customer. Right now that's not set up. So that's definitely something that I would recommend in this case. Then after 30 minutes, they sent the first email. 1 day later, they sent the second one. 2 days later, email 3. 1 day later, email 4. 2 days later, email 5. 2 days later, email 6. And 2 days later, email 7. Email 8. So an 8-part sequence. So it's really built out for the first 2 to 3 weeks, basically, after the purchase. So this strategy looks like pretty solid already. So I understand why this is like generating a good amount of revenue. Of course, we can't dive too deep into the emails itself because we don't want to make clear which brand this is, but basically the strategy of this flow for this brand is that they really want to focus on making sure that the first time buyer will do another purchase. So that's really what this flow is catered to. The first emails are more so to make people excited, and afterwards it's really like cross-selling with different products. So I think this brand is doing a good job in that area. So yeah, that's pretty solid. One thing that I do notice is that this flow will get sent to every purchaser, which is something that I don't recommend. I would always encourage to use splits for first-time buyers and returning customers, at least with the first emails, that you treat them in a different way, because yeah, you speak a bit different to a first-time buyer than to someone who's done like 4 purchases at your store. So you always want to have like splits for different kind of customers within your brand for your post-purchase flow. Then the third best performing flow is the abandoned cart flow, but the trigger is when someone checkout started. So this is not an abandoned cart flow. This is a checkout abandonment flow. Really important. A cart abandonment flow has to trigger added to cart. Checkout abandonment flow has to trigger checkout started. A lot of e-commerce brands are missing out on one of the 2 flows, mainly the cart abandonment flow, because they use Klaviyo's default flow, cart abandonment reminder, but Klaviyo is using the checkout started trigger for this. So we should actually blame Klaviyo for this. I don't know why they're naming it like this, because a lot of e-commerce brands are now making this mistake. You should always have and a cart abandonment flow and a checkout abandonment flow. you should have both, because in most cases, the majority of the audience is adding a product to the cart and then leaving the store. Only a smaller portion will start the checkout and then stop. So if you just have the checkout abandonment store, you're only taking like a small piece of the pie. So you should have both flows, and this will automatically generate a ton more revenue of your abandonment series. So that's already like a key finding for this brand. Then let's take a look at their flow itself. So we see, let's see, 4 emails. So like the typical thing that we see, where the first email is just a reminder after 30 days. Interesting that after 6 hours, they already sent the second email, which includes a discount. And 1 day later, it's like a last chance email. And then 2 days later, a last email where they don't have a discount anymore. So that's an interesting strategy. So let's take a look. We see like a 2.6%. Let's take a look at the data of the last 30 days. So 2.8% placed order rate on email 1, 2.5 on email 2, 1.4 at email 3, and 0.3 at email 4. So the conversion rates are not that high, to be honest. You always want to make sure that you convert, let's say, 15 to 20% of your abandoned carts, or abandoned checkouts in this case. So definitely room for improvement in that area. Also, I think it's pretty interesting that they send 2 emails on day 1, which is something that I wouldn't recommend. I would always stick to 1 email a day, to not like spam your audience. So that's an interesting thing that I see. Also, this brand is giving away discount email 2 on day 1 already. That's something that I don't recommend unless you're like completely comfortable with giving away your profit margins. We always like to come up with a strategy where we don't give away discounts straight away. We first want to send a couple of emails to like handle their objections, to show your USPs of the product that they've abandoned, and try to recover as much cards as possible without giving away the discount. Because typically nowadays people know that there's a discount in the abandoned cart sequence, so people just add a product to the cart and then leave your store waiting for that email with the discount code, and you don't want to have that. So you want to wait like at least 4 to 5 emails, 4 to 5 days before you start giving away discounts, and this will save you like a ton of money and a ton of margins. And of course, after 4 or 5 emails, then you can start giving away a discount to like squeeze out the most of your abandoned carts. So that's what I would definitely recommend for this brand as well, because the overall placed order rates are not that good. They're not sending enough emails. They're giving away a discount on day 1 already in email 2. So those are all things that I would definitely recommend to optimize for this brand. Besides the fact that, again, the abandoned cart flow is actually a checkout abandonment flow. Then if I take a look at the general overview of like the flows that they have live, I noticed that they're only generating revenue with a customer win-back flow. They have like another post-purchase flow in here, which is interesting. And they have a sunset flow that's generating some revenue, and an ebook delivery flow. So it looks like they're missing out on some core flows that they should have. So the core flows are the welcome series flow, site abandonment, browse abandonment, cart abandonment, checkout abandonment, post-purchase, customer win-back, sunset, unengaged. So in this case, we're missing out on the site abandonment flow, which is a flow that you send to people who've been on your website but not on a product page. So they're really early in the customer journey. With this flow, you basically want to act as their shop assistant. They're missing out on this flow. It's not like the biggest revenue driver, but still like a key flow that slowly but steady will generate like a good amount of revenue for your store. So they should definitely add that flow to their flows. Also, they're missing out on the browse abandonment flow, which is a really key flow, because that's the flow that gets the most amount of traffic, because this is the flow that will be sent to the so-called window shoppers. So people who've been on a product page but did not add a product to the cart. So it's a big revenue driver, and yeah, they're missing out on this flow already. So that's a big thing to optimize for this brand. Of course, it's interesting that they have 2 post-purchase flows. So of course, you want to make sure that you only have 1, so you're not sending double the amount of emails to your new customers, because that would make a very bad impression, of course. So yeah, on the email flow side, there's definitely like a good amount of things that this brand could optimize, besides the fact, as I mentioned a couple of times now, that they only have the checkout abandonment flow and not the cart abandonment flow. So especially on the pre-purchase side, I think this brand can generate a lot more revenue. And then lastly, we have the email campaigns. So let's see how many times they're sending emails. Let's see. So it's like almost every other day. So it's like pretty high volume. So let's take the last 7 days. Yeah, so they've sent 5 emails in the last 7 days. So there's a pretty high volume that they're using. That could explain why they get like the high spam complaint rates. Typically, like the ideal sending volume is like 3 to 4 campaigns a week. If you're sending to your main segment, which we always advise like a 90 days engaged segment. In this case, 5 emails in the last 7 days is on the high side. It could work if you make sure that emails are actually valuable and like bring value to the table, bring entertainment, and not like push for people to buy the product. In that case, it could work. Always take a look at like the data, what the click rate is telling you, what the open rate is telling you, what the placed order rate is telling you. That's the most important KPI, of course. But also take a look at unsubscribe rate and spam complaint rate. In this case, we know on the campaign side, there were a couple of campaigns that were getting high spam complaint rates. Unsubscribe rate was also on the higher side. So I think in this case, also I've taken a look at some of the emails. I think they should optimize their campaign strategy a bit more, where they're sending a little bit less emails, but a bit more value-based emails. So less focused on pushing for the purchase. And that would already work in terms of spam complaint rates. And I think that in the end, they could squeeze out more revenue with it. Although the placed order amount of revenue is already pretty solid, like 21K in here, 11K, 4.8, 2.8, 2.6. So their campaigns are performing well, but I think we can definitely optimize a thing or two for this brand. And yeah, those are like the key things that we take a look at. Of course, normally we also take a look at their email design, stuff like that. But in this case, we can't show the brand in this video. But what I can already tell you with email designs, there's also a couple of things that we can optimize for. So the most important thing is that we want to optimize the above default section. This goes wrong with a lot of e-commerce brands, where we see that the above default section doesn't include like clear message on what this email is about, and there's no clear call to action button. And if you don't know what the above default section is, so the above default section is the first thing that you see when you open an email, either on desktop or a mobile. The first thing that you see without having to scroll. That's what we call the above default section. And like 9 out of 10 people will only see this section of your email, and then they will leave your email. So that's why it's so important to optimize this area, because people are not going to scroll. I know this is again a subject there's a lot of debate on, because people are like, yeah, people are used to TikTok and stuff like that. So people are used to scroll. For email, it works a bit different. People only take a look at your email like 3 to 5 seconds. That's it, unless it sparks their interest. So you have to make sure that your email sparks their interest in the above default section. So that's why we always focus on that area for the most part, to really sell the rest of the email. So have a clear call to action button, have a clear headline, interesting visual, and that would already work way better for this brand, and I know for a lot of e-commerce brands out there. So that's what I could tell about email design. Also for this brand, and in general, what I would recommend is to optimize the footer section, because let's say someone has received your email, has watched the entire email, but the products that you're promoting, for example, in this email, is not interesting to the viewer at that moment, and then they leave your email. But what if you've optimized your footer section with the product categories of your brand, and now this person is looking at the email, watching the footer section and seeing those product categories. Now this person could think, okay, this sparks my interest, and then clicks it, goes to your website. So now instead of this person leaving your email, going to the next TikTok video, now this person is going to your website. So small hack, include product categories in your footer area, and this could have a really good effect on your click rate. And yeah, so those are the main pillars that we've taken a look at. So email deliverability, list growth, email flows, email campaigns. Despite the fact that this brand is doing a ton of revenue already, I think from the email side, there's a lot to improve for this brand. And yeah, that's also what we're going to do for this brand. So we're going to optimize their flows, optimize their sign-up forms. And I think that's already going to make a big difference for this brand. And there you have it. A complete audit of a 1.8 million per month Klaviyo account with clear opportunities to dramatically increase their email revenue. If you're running a Shopify store, I guarantee you that you're facing one of the same mistakes I've just shown you. But here's the thing. Knowing that you're making one of these mistakes is just one half of the battle. But implementing real solutions that will fix those mistakes is the other part of this battle, which will dramatically boost your revenue. If you found this audit valuable, and if you want to see how we can help you optimize your Klaviyo account for your e-commerce brand, so we can drive more revenue for your store, click on the link in the description to book a free strategy call with our team at Magicianly. And in one of our next videos, I'm going to show you how we implemented the solutions for the mistakes of this Klaviyo account and see the results that we made for it. So make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss this video. And if you have questions about your own Klaviyo account, make sure to drop them in the comment section below, and I'll personally respond to them, to as many as possible. Thanks for watching this video, and I hope to see you in the next one.